Hey guys, and welcome back to Shelf Talks. Today is actually going to be a solo episode. I'm going to be doing a recap of the five amazing women that have already been on the show that have given us some pretty amazing gems about how to start a brand, how to build a brand, and of course, how to get it into retail stores. So I think the most interesting thing about all of these female founders is the fact that they have all had different paths in the way that they've approached not only building but also entering into this retail space. The one thing though that is very intriguing and interesting is that they all have very similar commonalities. So there's four that I've definitely picked up on already that pretty much intertwine all five of these founders. One is this unmeasured belief in themselves. Rachel Klein, the founder of Revival Food Co., called it magical delusion. They believe in themselves more than anyone else on this earth. And they believe that the vision that they have for the development and build out of their brand is going to come to reality no matter what. So I just love that about all of them. And so I feel like that's definitely a common trait when it comes to a founder that is successful and is able to bring their brand to life, is that you have to believe in yourself before anyone else is going to believe that what you're doing is meaningful enough to create impact. So definitely that's one that I've seen across all five of these female founders. The second I would say would be grit. And this was actually something that a couple of them said, and most recognizably that I can remember Brianna Arps, founder of Mudo, mentioned just the fact that they are willing to do any and everything to make it happen. They are cold calling any and everybody that they feel has a connection to getting them to the next step in which they need to get to in order to build their brand. They're emailing, they're going on LinkedIn, they're finding people's names that are connected to a retail store or connected to an editor or connected even to a manufacturing plant that can help them build their brand. So having that grit and tenacity is so important to make it, right? And to really be to the level that you want to be with your brand. The third is the ability to figure it out. These ladies are going beyond any measure that I could think of to make it happen. And it makes me think about, how a lot of people say, oh, I can't do this because of that. Well, they have none of that in their vocabulary. If they want to do something, they're going to figure out how to do it. They're going to, Google every manufacturing plant that exists in the United States and beyond to get in contact with somebody that is going to give them that next step, that next block to continue on their path to building their brand. So just a really important thing, I think, is to think about not why can't I do it, but what are the steps I need in order to make it. And then lastly, all of them are women that said yes and then figured it out later. No matter what, it could be at different paths within their journey of building their brand. But the fact that you don't always have to be perfect, I think, is definitely reflective across all of these women's minds and how they tackle every day. Is if they're given an opportunity, they're gonna take it because not a lot of opportunities happen all of the time. What I've learned from this is when you're executing something that you believe to be, you don't have to have it figured out 100%. You really need to trust in yourself, trust in your intuition, and if it feels like it's the right thing to do, then do it. Say yes, take that step, but then do the things the actions that are going to get you to success. Brianna Arps, founder of Mudo, mentioned that she was building the plane as she was flying, something very similar to that, meaning, you're on the journey, don't stop because you don't know the next step. Keep stepping and then continue to get all the information and put it together as you're moving forward. So, those are just four traits. I mean, definitely many more, but four that stand out to me as I kind of reflect on all five of our female founders and how they ended up being successful in the place that they're at in their career. So to recap the five female founders that we've had on the show, episode 2 was Rebecca Alvarez Story. She is the founder of a brand called Bloomy, a sexual wellness brand that really focuses on normalizing the conversation around sex. She has some pretty amazing products that are currently in Target as well as CVS. Not to mention, she is the first Latina woman to have a brand in the sexual wellness wall or the sexual wellness aisle at Target. So that's just pretty amazing, number one. The thing that I really took away from that conversation, and I think a lot of founders that are looking to get into retail should, is that a lot of times it's not right away after that first conversation with a buyer that you're going to be given a yes and your products are going to automatically be in store. In her case, she cultivated relationships with buyers, in some cases a couple of years, on just continuous conversation and ensuring that both parties, it made sense for those products to be on those shelves and that, of course, they were going to be successful and profitable. So I think that that's just a really great takeaway for founders that are thinking about getting into retail stores, are already having those conversations and maybe a little frustrated in regards to the time that it's taking to get that yes or even get that no, that many times you just have to be patient. And as a buyer, what I love to see when, maybe I'm talking to a brand and they currently are not ready and or maybe I don't have a slot specifically for them in the assortment, is the continuous updates that I'm given. If you reach out every quarter and just give an update to where you are as you're growing your brand, maybe additional retailers that you've gone into, awards that you've received, major moments that have happened as you're building out your brand and just keeping those buyers updated. Number one, I believe it helps in just keeping your brand top of mind for that buyer because, of course, we're talking to so many different brands all of the time. And so although we may find a little bit of interest in you, if it's a year later and we've talked to, a couple of hundred other brands, we may forget. So I think just giving those updates, not every day, of course, but even if it was every other month or every quarter, just allows for, continuous conversation and connection. Episode 3 with Rachel Klein, founder of Revival Food Co. Rachel has an amazing lineup of almond butters in a lot of local grocers across the country, inclusive of Giant Eagle Market District, if anybody is from the Midwest. And at one time, she actually had her brand in Walmart. And I think the great takeaway from her story was really around the fact that, although when she initially reached out to Walmart, which is a pretty amazing story just in that, but when she did connect with them, and again, she was another female founder that we talked to that continuously updated, reached out, had conversation with Walmart until she got that yes, but realized when she got on shelf that it really wasn't the right demographic for her consumer and probably a little bit too many stores to start off with. At the end of the day, her product was actually removed from Walmart. And she has a pretty great story there, I think, in regards to how to have those conversations with those buyers and pretty much exit, I would say, gracefully. So, I think the learning lesson from that is, her mindset was that, okay, I've been in these local grocers, but now I really want to go big. I really want to be in a platform that really represents my brand in a greater magnitude. And once she got there, she got on shelf, of course, had consistent conversation with her buyers and seeing where she was from a sales perspective and what she could do to continue to grow her brand. But at the end of the day, realizing that that wasn't really the right path for her. That really wasn't the right place for her products. And understanding that along with her buyer and figuring out an exit plan that made sense for both, as well as didn't put her in a financial constraint coming out of it, I think is a great learning lesson for a lot of founders that, maybe are thinking about really big box, but maybe need to think a little bit harder to understand, do you really have the customer that's going to be shopping that store? Is your price point in the range that those consumers typically look for? Or is it, high priced? And maybe that's not the place you want. Maybe it's more of a specialty deal because consumers spend more in a specialty atmosphere than they do maybe when you think about a Walmart that really is about discount prices. So just something to really think about as you're planning out your sales strategy. And then our episode number 4 was Jamaica Martin, founder of Rosen Skincare. Jamaica started her brand out of her apartment in college. She researched how to formulate skincare products because of her own personal journey. What I love about her is that she really reached out in many ways to be educated and to have connections. She was in the Ulta Accelerator program that really helped you learn all about manufacturing, how to, present on shelf, what your packaging should look like, financial things, learning lessons in regards to being on retail shelf. So just a really great program to help give you all of the tools so that once you're on that retail shelf, you don't feel as if you don't know the next steps in order to start to actually sell your product and be successful. Now, that accelerated program wasn't guaranteed placement on shelf, but what it did do for Jamaica was have an initial connection to the retailer where she, again, followed up, had conversation, updated them on where she was. And, it ended up to be a great story because she is on the shelves of Ulta with a really, I think, pretty cool display. You should definitely go check that. And then we had on episode 5, Morgan Potts, founder of Granarly, a whiskey-infused granola brand. What's amazing about her is, one, whiskey infused. It's totally different than what currently sits on the shelf. It tastes pretty amazing, too. I will say I got it back and definitely have been indulging. But what I love most about her is that she really took a dream, a vision of what was to be Granarly and this mix of whiskey and granola that had never been done before. And once she got that vision, she moved with it. She moved to a different city. She identified a manufacturer that could help her and educate her on what it meant to have a brand and produce. And she said to herself, how can I get the maximum knowledge out of this woman? I'm going to work for her. I'm going to be her nanny, and that allows me to be with her 40 hours a week, at least. And from that, she cultivated this great relationship with her, but she also learned everything that this successful woman already had. So I think that a big learning lesson there is figuring out who are the people that can help educate you to get you to that next level. What's amazing about Morgan, too, is that she started her brand with a food truck. So not even initially in retail stores, but building it out from getting that one-on-one connection with consumers and understanding what they were looking for within the brand. From there, she moved into some smaller retail stores, inclusive of local Whole Foods, and then grew to eventually get into big box and Target in over 500 stores. So I think the learning lesson from that one is, although she went from just a small group of stores to Target, she did start small. And so I think a lot of founders with brands that are looking to go into retail stores want to go from direct consumer to 1,000 Walmart, right? 500 Targets. But really, sometimes it's best to start small. Sometimes it's best to really focus and get a good baseline of how you operate when it comes to a retail store before the floodgates open and you're into so many stores that maybe it's a little bit too overwhelming. Maybe you don't have the bandwidth. Maybe you don't have the proper people in place in order to really keep the ball moving and be successful. Maybe your manufacturer isn't at the level of a high capacity that they could deliver the units that you would need to be in such a big, high-profile space. So just thinking about, the steps in which you want to take, it doesn't always have to be big right away. In many cases, you can be successful and never get to a mass. Because although there's, great opportunity for you to be on shelf and get that discoverability, it may not be the demographic that you need. Maybe your product is always just something that's a little more specialty. And it needs to be in the place that consumers are coming in the doors and going directly to, versus it being on shelf with a lot of other products that are similar. And you may just be, outpriced, outbid, or a customer may like that versus what you have. And lastly, we have Brianna Arps, founder of Mudo, a luxury fragrance brand, currently on the shelves of Credo, Urban Outfitters, and 13. What I love about Brianna is I think it's a learning lesson that she took her experiences as a journalist to create this brand and give, I think, a luxury fragrance brand a different feel than anything else that exists on shelves today. And so I think the biggest lesson there is that sometimes you think you you go from one career to another, right? Of course, starting a brand, and you think you're starting from the bottom. But in reality, you're not. In reality, you're taking all of the lessons that you've experienced and or learned in any other, field or, people that you've been around in the past to really give you that leg up that allows you to be a differentiator in the space. So Brianna took her journalism background, right? She created these stories to present to her manufacturers. She didn't say, "Oh, I want, a luxury fragrance that smells like lilies," right? She created a story on how she wants that consumer that puts on her fragrance to feel, what the emotion should be from the very beginning, before anything was ever mixed in a container or a jar. So what I love about that story is just the fact that you think that you're starting from the beginning, especially when you're building a brand, coming from a different career path, and starting something new. But really, you're not, because you're taking all of those lessons from your past growth in other, you know, careers and or platforms, and utilizing those to create your own story and your own uniqueness, and using that information to get you to the next level. So I think that's just a really big lesson from Brianna. She utilized as well a lot of her editor community to mix not only, awareness through influencers, but awareness through publication, awareness through articles, awareness through being on the best list. And that really propelled her success because it allowed for a lot of retailers to take notice and say, what is this Mojo that I'm seeing in so many articles on my Instagram feeds via influencers, and how can we be a part of that? So I think another takeaway is that, of course, when you're looking to connect to buyers, you are emailing them, you're sending them product, you're going to events and expos in which you know that they're going to be at. But another way that buyers find out about brands and connect is through seeing those brands on a social platform. So whether it be an article, scrolling Instagram, seeing them on LinkedIn, these are ways that we as buyers learn about brands that are new, that are upcoming, that are, being talked about in the social atmosphere and or the customers that shop our stores. And we reach out that way. So I would encourage, you as you're building your brand to be loud about it, to make sure that you are talking about it, that you have influencers or, whatever channels really move and bring awareness to your brand, that you're utilizing those all the time, because we are definitely looking. We're definitely searching for that next thing, that next brand that really is going to drive consumers into store, get them excited, and continue to build out, a really strong community. So that wraps up just a recap of our, again, 5 amazing female founders. I hope you really got a chance to listen to every single one of our recordings because they're all different, they're all unique. What I also think is a great takeaway from listening to all 5 founders is they all found success in retail in different ways, whether it's attending an expo with a true vision and path to Walmart and knowing that you're going to talk to Walmart when you get there, and that is the only plan that you have, that's plan A, B, and C. Whether it is going through accelerator programs and programs that help educate you and train you to be on retail shelf, but at the end also give you an immediate connection to that retailer that you feel is where your consumer is going to shop, or even being in smaller retail stores and being identified on shelf. Buyers are always doing what we call competitive shopping. And what that means is going to other retail stores and seeing what they have new and different on the shelf. And if we see something that makes sense for our consumers and our shelves, we reach out. So again, you don't always have to go from 0 to, 1,000 stores. But even if you're in some local stores, being on shelf helps. It gives visibility to not only new consumers, but also buyers that could happen to be in the store. Like we found out with Rachel Klein from Revival. She was in just some local stores within Indiana, and Giant Eagle saw her on shelf and reached out because they saw her in kind of a local set that they were building out as well within their own store set. So don't be afraid to start small, and don't think that small isn't impactful, because at the end of the day, it really can be. It helps in, again, you understanding how to be on retail shelves in a smaller group, right? So it allows for even when you're having those mistakes for them to be small. And then it also allows for you to understand your customer, getting customer feedback, seeing how, your package is on shelf and how it may differentiate how you're selling from a direct to consumer's perspective. And lastly, getting some eyes potentially from some buyers and getting a call that could definitely take your brand to a whole another level and just, a matter of seeing it on shelf. I think that those are all great takeaways when you listen to these chats. So lastly, you may still be wondering, why go into retail stores? I'm doing amazing from a direct-to-consumer standpoint, or I only want to sell online. Well, going into retail stores, number one, gives you discoverability. So consumers that, are just, think about when you go in Target and you're just going down the many aisles and seeing what's new and different. It gives opportunity for new consumers to see your product on shelf, new eyes on your product that maybe you're not able to target while you are selling from a online perspective only. Secondly, it allows for an influx of cash. Now, you're not going to get that cash right away. As we learned, even talking to Rihanna Arps from Mudo, in some cases, you may not get paid for 30, 60, 90 days after you deliver the product to that retailer's distribution center. So one, you need to take into account that. But when you do get paid, you get paid the full lump sum of the product that you're delivering. So different from selling from a direct-to-consumer standpoint, where you're getting paid for every customer that buys, you may send 5,000 units to a local retailer, and you'll get paid for 5,000 units within that 30, 60, 90 days, whatever your contract is. So that's a great way to get an influx of money, but again, just being clear that it's not right away. So what that means is you are going to be paying up front for that purchase order. So if you have a purchase order for 10,000 units, you have to make sure that you're financially ready to purchase all of the goods and get it produced with your own money. And whether that is through investors, like we learned with Rebecca Alvarez's story, or through your own funds, like we learned with Rachel Klein. It all varies. It's all different, but you just need to make sure that you're accounting for that and you're being able to produce that without the funds that are going to be generated from that actual retailer. So I really hope that you're enjoying all of these great interviews. I mean, I definitely have. They've been so fun. And I think, most importantly, they've just been given a lot of great information and knowledge around retail stores specifically and what it looks like to get on shelf, to get connected with buyers, to be successful and or not, and the lessons that you can learn from them. So if you're loving these conversations, I would love for you to write a review on any of the platforms that you're listening to this on, because of course that just helps with more people seeing it, more people listening, and more people getting these valuable, tools that can help them get over the roadblocks that some of these founders that we've talked to have been through and are just accelerating the growth of their brand and getting it into stores. So many more episodes to come. Next week, we're actually going to talk to somebody who has their product in Costco. So I'm really interested about that one. It's definitely a different model than a lot of other retailers. Reach out to hello@shelftalks.com if you want to talk about anything, have any questions, want to give any female founders that you know of that would be great for this show. I'm always open to hearing that and connecting with new female founders and getting them, and, giving opportunity for them to tell their story. What I love about this show is twofold. One, I get to talk with some amazing female founders that are telling their stories on how they started their brand, what their strategy is, their retail strategy, as well as their brand strategy for growth. And then on the other side of it, founders, sales reps, other people that are in this space that are looking for that next level into retail stores get to really understand what it looks like, what paths you need to take, what paths you should take, and in some cases, maybe some paths that you shouldn't take in order to get to that next level. So I really, again, hope you're enjoying the show. Many more to come, and definitely reach out if you want to connect. I'm always here.